Well, today's the day. We got 3 inches of snow yesterday, and I still hadn't got the plow installed on the new truck. This is a 2024 F-350 crew cab long box with a 6.7 liter diesel in it, and I have the Snowplow prep package on it, which I think essentially is just bigger front springs. And it's time to actually get the Western plow mount installed. What I'm installing on this truck is a 2012 Western MVP Plus. This will be the 4th truck that this plow has been installed on. And for the most part, I've transferred the isolation module and the main power wiring harness from truck to truck. And then in between, there's been multiple different vehicle light harnesses that have been installed. I had it on a 2002 F-350, a 2006 F-350, the 2022 F-350, and now it's gonna go on the 2024 F-350. The plow mount was installed on the 2022, is the same part number from Western, so I pulled the plow mount off the 2022 with intent of installing it on the 24. I did pick up the light harness for the 2024, was part number 85993. That's essentially the only thing that I had to buy that was different between the 22 and the 24. And I have the old light harness for the 22 here. We'll see if anybody wants to buy it. This will fit, I believe, the 17 through the 2022 F Super Duties with the LED light headlights. So now I have the 24 light harness. It's a little bit different. This one I actually have to go and connect it in behind each of the individual headlights. The 22 is a little bit easier, where I only had to plug it in right behind the passenger headlight. There was a harness there I could plug it into. The 24 is a little more difficult to do. We got a little bit of project ahead of us. I'm gonna start by getting the bumper off, and then we'll go from there. All right, one of the first things we gotta do is disconnect this wire harness this is the harness that goes from the truck side to the bumper side. And I'm just gonna push on this little tab here and disconnect it. The first step in getting the bumper off after disconnecting the wiring harness is in both sides of the wheel wells, the fenders. There's 2 bolts right here holding the bumper on. So I'm going to disconnect those. Those look to be about 15 millimeter. The next step of getting the bumper off is we got to get this trim piece off the center here. And I'm going to do that by first removing getting the license plate bracket off, because there's a tab in behind there that I need to get access to. There we go. That gives me access to these tabs here, and we can get them off, or tabs or body panels. I got a body panel puller, body panel plug puller thingy-majigger here. Pull these guys out. What this will do for us is it'll give us access to the main bolts, which are right behind here, holding the bumper on to the frame. And let's just pull. There we go. All right, so got that off, and then that is the main thing holding it on. There's some snap clips holding the rest of the trim on, so I can just pop them off like this, and that'll get that entire trim piece off. All right, to get access to the 2 bolts that are behind this module here, I need to remove these nuts that are holding the module in place. And it looks like they're about 10 millimeter. Nope. 11, yep. 11 millimeter. Okay, and now we have access to these 2 bolts, and I believe these are 18 millimeter. And now they're actually, they've got retainers on them, so So I'm just gonna loosen them slowly so then the retainers stay on there. And as the bumper pulls away, they'll start sticking behind. Once you get all the bolts off the front side, and then the 4 bolts, 2 bolts on the right side and the left side on the inside by the wheels, then there is, right up here, there's 2 plastic connectors holding the little rubber seal or the wind deflector to the main grill area. So we need to pop those off. So I'm gonna take my body panel thingy-majigger and get that pulled off. Oh, broke it. All right, once you get those off, those are disconnected. I'm gonna push this back on here so that it's not flopping. And it's kind of on there, but pull it off a little bit. Then we gotta disconnect the block heater. So there's a couple tangs or winkamajiggers holding the block heater harness to the bumper. So we're gonna disconnect those whatcha-didges from their holding points. And then one more right here. Like that. There, wire harness is disconnected. And now the bumper is completely off. And what I mean by the bumper bolt retainers is, here's a bumper bolt. Here's a little retainer that essentially, it's a washer that sits on the inside of the bumper and it holds the bumper bolt on for installation. So I'm just going to reinstall it here. Here are some bumper bolts here with the washers on, and that just allows the bolts to stay in place. And then when you install it, you can easily get the nuts on the backside without having to hold the bolts as well. All right, bumper's off. And now we have easy access to all the mounting spots for the hard mounts and then the wiring harness as well. Now we want to remove, I guess, what they're called is the Prius catchers. I don't know what they are really called, but there's just 4 bolts on both sides. And what's gonna go in place is the actual mount for the plow. So we'll get these pulled off, see what size they are. I think they're probably 18s as well. Next, we need to remove the metal stabilizer bar brackets and retain for reinstallation later on. So the metal bar brackets are these guys right here. So we'll get those off. Then we need to remove the bolts or the nuts that are holding on this cross member. It's right in front of the radiator hose. So there's these 2 bolts and they're connected to each other on the backside. So just remove them. Save the bolts for later installation. All right, the next step now is to install the brackets that are part of the installation procedure for the mount. And there's 2 brackets, and this is the one that goes on the right side. Essentially, it goes up here like so. kind of fits around the bolts that hold the stabilizer assembly up, and then also fits within the bolts of the cross member. I'm going to reinstall the cross member bolts because that'll help hold everything together. Now, everything on the existing plow mount is very, very dirty because I use fluid film or wool wax to kind of keep everything rust free, and that gets dirty. So I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. The bracket goes on the back side of the cross member, motor side of the cross member, and then we got to hit the holes of the stabilizer. I'm gonna put this double bolt in to hold it up there. Goes all the way through like that. And now we can remount the stabilizer. That goes back up there like this. And we'll put some nuts back on it. I'm gonna put my nuts back on the cross member. That's done. All right, now I'm gonna torque these down a little bit. Just get a little, gives us a little bit of torque, and then I can come back through in a little bit and torque them all. I'm just gonna hand torque them. That feels good. All right, now I can attach or hang the ball mount bracket. I'm gonna start by inserting. Does it need a washer? Doesn't look like it. Always refer to the parts diagram. So we 1/2 inch by 2 inch bolt here, and then there's one 1/2 inch by 2 inch bolt goes on the back side as well, and 1/2 inch by 2 inch, 1/2 inch by 2 inch here, 1/2 inch by 2 inch. There. And then some 1/2 inch nuts go on it. I'm gonna put those 2 of them on at least so this thing doesn't fall on my face. All right, so inside of the frame actually goes some washers. So on the inside of the frame, we put a washer on every one of the bolts. I'm actually gonna start on the back. On the outside of the frame, they're 1.5 inch bolts. And then on the inside of the frame, they're 2 inch bolts. Again, the inside, we get a washer on both of them. And then a nut. Now that I have the cross member bolts torqued down and the stabilizer bar torqued down, I can torque the top bolt on the rear mount here and get that one tightened down. First goes a washer on the back side of it. I get this bottom one out of here because it's kind of in the way. And then a nut. And then it'll go until finger tight. And then we can get our box wrench in there. I'm gonna get my ratchet ready. 1/2-inch ratchet with a 3/4 inch socket on it, and then a 3/4 inch box wrench. We'll kind of wedge this up in here best I can, get it around that nut, and then I'll use the ratchet to tighten. And make sure you use the open end on the box wrench, otherwise you're never going to get it off. Because the bolt here almost ends up touching the bolt for the stabilizer bracket. There. And if you can, get an impact or a torque wrench in here. According to my book, they should be torqued to 75 foot-pounds, but I think just because the length of a torque wrench might be difficult to get the torque wrench on, but we'll try. That's right, I gotta put washers on the inside and the frame, so we'll do that right away while I'm working here. The inside bolts are 2-inch, the outside bolts are 1.5 inches. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the back one tightened down, hand tightened with a ratchet, and then I'll get the front ones tightened down. All right, I'm gonna torque that one down right away. So I got it in there, got the wrench in there. So 75 foot-pounds to torque it down. There you go. All right, so then they want you to check the bracket distance to distance outside of the left bracket to the inside of the right bracket. And it's gotta be 30 7/16 plus or minus 1/8. And we are actually at 30 7/16, almost 30.5. So we're right on the money. So we're good there. And the last thing we need to do is install this cross brace here and use the 1.5-inch bolts. Okay. All right, that's it. All right, the mount is installed. Got everything, all the bolts torqued down. These are all torqued. I'm gonna spray some fluid film up inside the frame on both sides. These are the cross members torqued. I checked the distance between the mounts here, and it's right where it's gotta be. So next I gotta notch out the air dam, because that's gonna be in the way, and we're on our way. All right, so I just temporarily set the bumper up here. I have the mounts on now. I haven't done the wiring harness yet. but I want to get this air dam notched out. So yeah, there's really no exact science to figuring out exactly where this has got to be. So I'm just gonna crawl underneath. I want to make sure that's lined up left to right first and get it relatively close. So I'm just taking some tape and just lining it up with this plow frame so I have an idea of where to cut when I'm doing this. I'm gonna push up as high as I can. I can get an approximate mark of where it's gotta be. All right, now we have an idea of what we gotta notch out, at least for a minimum for these here. I think we can start with this and make adjustments once we get it fully installed. And then I find it easiest to get my legs underneath it. Then I can use my legs to lift it and get the bolts into the holes. There, it fits. Now we need to start to get the inner fender out. There's a bunch of little bolts, I believe they're 5.5 mils, that work their way along the inside. So you need to take those out. There's a 10 millimeter bolt right up front here that needs to come off. That essentially holds the wheel well liner in place. So, that's that, and then we can kind of manipulate this. Kind of work it out. Work out. There we go. Not much holding them things in. So now we can get the regular wheel well liner out, which is like a fabric type liner. And you can see there's some pins here. There's actually a little holder screw here that can come off. There's nothing in the back, but up front there's a little body panel. I would recommend maybe having some of these on hand. I'll see if I can't find some, because they kind of get wrecked in this process. And then up here, you can see what's being held on. This is right above the wheel. It's just a screw. And I'm just gonna use my, you can also thread it off too. So I'll pull that off. Oh, there's one actually back up in here too. Another one of those little washer things. So we'll thread this one off too. There we go, got it. And all it is just very thin metal, and these grooves catch on the threads. One more bolt right here, and that feels like probably an 8. I don't know, what do you think it is? There we go. And now this inner fender is ready to come out as well. Just gotta kind of push it away from the outer fender, kind of manipulate it some, work it away its way it's round. So all the wiring harness actually connected to the inner fender as well, so they can all pop off of the inner fender. Just little connectors and holes. You can pop every one of these off to kind of get it out of the way. Just like that. You kind of work it out, so for the most part it's out. And I think I'm gonna have to leave it in there because I think there's a screw on the bottom side. Yeah, that's right. The regular fender is held on the bottom by these screws here, so I'm gonna leave this just like that. All right, so now we have access to get in here and get the wiring harness run for the plow. And I'm gonna read the directions and figure out what we gotta do next. The first step into connecting the plow harness, got the plow harness laid out here, into the vehicle, the truck, is to locate the wire harness that's right behind the front headlight. It's kind of right behind the fender here, right up inside. Again, I can rotate it around and open that up and get that opened up because the first part of the harness connects right into that. Now you have to play with this because the routing of these wires is not that clear, but essentially one goes into one, and this one goes into here, like so. This part routes back to the back, and it routes, you gotta kind of route it up above the wiring harness that exists in this inner fender area, below the battery box, and then it routes up against the firewall and then comes out on top behind the battery, and that's where the isolation module goes. The ones that have A, B, and C on them go to the isolation module. I'm gonna route it right up here on this inner fender, kind of get it above, hooked over top of some of these wire harnesses and through so that it holds itself up there naturally. And then I can go up behind the factory fuse box. So I'm routing it up because the isolation module will sit right about here on top of this factory fuse box. Like that. These harnesses, this one here with the green, will go to the driver's side, behind the driver's side headlamp, and this one goes to the passenger side headlamp. So we need to figure out where the connectors are for the headlamp, which is right here in the inner fender. It appears. Let's see if this is the right one. There it is. Yeah, there it is right there. You can reach it right inside here. So we'll connect this in there, and then this goes in the back of the headlight. There we go. All right, so that's where we're at right now. We have this wire is connected into the factory harness here. This blue set is connected into the behind the factory headlight or the headlight connection. And now I need to go and dig and find the passenger side headlight and figure out how to route this long wire over there to basically intercept the signal going to those headlights. All right, so I want to figure out how to get my way in behind the driver's side headlight. Look at that. All right, so got access to the passenger side, so it's not impossible. You can was just feeling around up in there, you can get it. So there we go. So now I need to route the harness over here somehow. All right, just wanted to give you a little update where we're at with routing this white harness to the passenger side. So it comes up, we're looking at there's a tire, and then we're looking up into the passenger side fender area behind the passenger side headlight. And there is a factory wire harness. You can kind of see it, that's shiny right from my finger, is the factory wire harness. And it actually runs over to the other side. So if you follow that wire harness, it goes above that coolant bottle and then comes on the other side of the frame below the engine, and here's a radiator line. It's actually right above this radiator line. So what it is, I routed the plow harness. I'm gonna basically follow this factory harness to the other side underneath the engine, and then back up to the driver's side of the truck behind the driver's side headlight. Just give you an update of what I did here. You can see, so that's where the connection is, right here to the back of the headlight on the driver's side. Wire harness is a small harness here, and I just have it continuing across to the other side. One of the relays I have kind of just propped up behind the wire harness here. The other one I actually drilled a hole in the inner fender, and I have it attached to the inner fender right here. It's ready to go. We'll get the driver's side inner fender back in because they're done on this side then. So I've got the light harness all connected in. They're connected in the back of the headlights. There's one connection there. On this side, this is the wire harness that's going to the other side, the passenger side, and then this keeps on going back to above the fuse box. And then I kind of just worked and manipulated the wire harness so that I tried to get it above the truck harness. Here's another part of the harness. This has got the module or relays for the headlight. I've just got it kind of sitting above. It's below the battery, below the air box, or around the air box, just out of the way so that it's not in the way of the inner fender. And then the wire harness that goes from right by the headlight here to here it is right here. This goes back up to the fuse box. It actually slides in really nicely into this wire harness container that's on here in the factory. So I just kind of tucked it in there and put a zip tie around it to hold it in place. This has got to connect into the power harness, which is going to go next. This is the plow control harness. 16-pin connector here, which goes up to the plow. This connects into this connector right here. And then these guys with these relays or whatever these are go up behind the radiator or up on top of the fuse box. So I think I'm actually going to fish it in from the top, and then we'll fish this part all the way up to the front. So I'm gonna start from the top. Of course I wasn't recording that. So I fished, this is the plow control harness, and I fished it in from the top. So now I'll connect, this is some sort of relay system, and then this is connection A, which goes into the isolation module. Get it into port A. Then there's this single wire communication line, which these two connect together like that. And all of our connections are made on top. This can sit right there for now until we're ready. All right, so now we need to route this to the front of the truck. This is where it plugs into the plow. So I'm going to want to just kind of route it above the wire harness here so that it doesn't get in the way of anything. So now this can connect into here, like so. And then this goes into, I'm thinking, the power harness. This can kind of get put back up in here. And these guys just kind of rest up here. They all will rest on top of the inner fender. All right, so now we got, here's the hot power. This goes to the plow as well. So these two connectors are the plow connectors that go to the plow. So I need to figure out how to best get these through to the front of the truck. So I've got the plow power harness run. I pulled out the air cleaner, and so I already have the fuse kit installed on the power harness. So I've actually got them split, positive and negative. Negative comes in here on top of this is the passenger side battery, and it connects to there, and the positive connects over here, and the positive wire runs down on that side of the battery, and the negative runs on this side of the battery on this side of the air cleaner. And then underneath, it just kind of runs down next to the coolant, underneath the radiator, and then comes out front. And then once I work to put the bumper back on, we'll figure out how to get it up behind the license plate where I want to be able to connect in. Now we got to install the vehicle control harness. It's this long thing. This goes all the way into the cab. This is the hot, this wire here is for hot. And then these guys connect in up here. So I'm going to do some routing to get that installed. This will run on top and then go into the firewall there. We'll just kind of scoot it up where everything else goes. So the vehicle control harness gets connected into the harness that goes up to the plow control harness. And then the end of it, this end, connects into, on the plow power harness, there's a connector, and that plugs into there. And the rest of this just kind of gets bunched up in here because there's a lot of extra, at least on this particular harness, which is now 11 years old. So I've got plow wire harness kind of tucked up in here underneath or behind the vehicle harnesses. Got all the other wiring harnesses kind of in their place. Everything's connected. The only thing that's not connected is the inside of the cab. I haven't run the wire through the firewall yet, but I want to get this inner fender back on and get the bumper back on so this truck's drivable, because it's getting late in the night and I don't want to keep working out here. So we'll get the fender back on, inner fender back on, and then get the bumper back on. So to start by getting the fender back on, make sure all my connections are good. Just work to get all the wiring harnesses connected back to the inner fender. Now we can work to get the inner fender back in. I'm ready to install the bumper. What I determined for now is that right behind the license plate bracket on the left-hand side, there's a little trim piece that goes up in there like this, and it just helps direct air in. And I just took it out for now because I think it's gonna be a perfect spot for these plow wires to come through. And I got them kind of situated here on the back side of the license plate. And now I can just reconnect the block heater, remembering where they all go. We'll start at the top, there. Now I can slowly hang this bumper. These just go on the back side. Put your hands on the bolts on the front side. Make sure they're through. And just start assembling. While I'm down here, I'm going to connect the harness for the sensors and front light or camera. What's nice is only one plug for the front bumper. After you get the 8 bolts on the front tightened down, you need to reattach the bumper bolts on the front here. I had to loosen up this bracket on the inside. Now I'm going to retighten. There. And the last bit is to get the front put back together. I took off this thing, whatever this thing is, reattach it, reinstall it. Don't forget to put the bolts or the nuts on it. Make sure I pull my cords through. And these just kind of snap in on the left and right. Like that. And then on the bottom, these guys get pushed back in. And then on the top, it's this double action set up here. It's easier to insert them here and then squeeze the tips together, push them in, and then push them in the rest of the way. Put the cover on. There you go. Hide that back there. Now we can install license plate just like that. And then when I'm plowing, I can pull these guys out like that. But we're not done yet. The next step will be to get the plow control harness into the cab, get that connected or in its spot. And then after that, we just gotta hook the plow up and see if everything works. lubrication helps. So anybody's looking for, this is a 2024 F-350 Super Duty, and if you're looking for the PTO wire bundle, in my case I'm going to be using it for connecting a hot wire for the Plow, the 2012 Western Plow that needs a key-on switched power source. And the 2022, the PTO pigtail was just dangling loose down in behind the kickboard, the opening here. The pass-through wires are in here. That's what this little bundle is here. These 4 wires are the pass-through wires. But the PTO pigtail is actually, it's hard to see, but you can kind of see it. I pulled this trim off so I got a better sight. But it's right up in there, that gray connector. And it's up in there holding on to something, and I can see the label says PTO. So I'm going to attempt to get those guys out because I need that pigtail. There, I got it. What I end up using is this long needle nose, and I got the plug. This plug was connected to a wire, and then just these wires are tucked way up inside there. So I got the needle nose, I was able to grab onto this tag, and then I was able to pull everything out. So once you get this plug disconnected, I just used the body panel puller, got that disconnected once I found it, and was able to pull that harness down. Alright, I finally found some power that's keyed on, and that's this brown-blue wire that's in the PTO harness. If we look at the tag, it's called Outfitter SW, I'm guessing Outfitter switch. So the brown-blue is hot when the key is on. For the Plow, I'm going to connect into this and run a wire across to the passenger driver's side, and then we should be good to go. So I fished that wire across, just kind of wrapped it around the existing wire, and Hunter runs underneath the HVAC. And then I kind of tucked it up by the fuse box, and then I connected it into the brown and blue wire here, brown blue, which is hot. And now I'm just gonna tuck this harness back up inside, trying to get it out of the way. Go. I'm just going to kind of weld this wire somewhere where it'll end up being out of the way. All right. Connected. I'm just using a zip tie to zip tie that thing up there. The lights transferred over. There, it wasn't that hard. It only took me, let's see, it's Tuesday night right now. I think I worked on it for probably three and a half hours on Sunday. Three hours Monday night, and another 2-3 hours tonight. I'm hoping that you're watching this right now and you're learning something, and I've saved you some time, because if I had a video like this and I would have researched prior to this, I would have known that I need to look a little bit deeper for that PTO harness on these 23s and the 24 Super Duties, and know where to run the wire harness and all that stuff. So make sure you watch this again so that you can really understand what's going on. And if you want to see this plow on a different truck, make sure you check out this video right here.